Hello and welcome to the State of the Fleet Industry, a weekly video series produced by Automotive Fleet Magazine. I'm Mike Antich, editor of Automotive Fleet, and today I'd like to examine what's occurring in the fleet industry for the week of July 18th, 2022. And for this week's episode, I'd like to explore the current trends that are influencing the upfitting market and their impact on those fleet operations whose vehicles require the installation of specialized auxiliary equipment, which runs the gamut from service bodies to van interiors, ladder racks, cranes, or aerial lifts, to name just a few. But in many ways, the upfit market in calendar year 2022 is really a continuation of what we had experienced in 2021. And for that matter, calendar year 2021 was a continuation of what was experienced in 2020. Sure, there are differences between each of these years, but fundamentally, for the past 2.5 years, there have been a series of multi-year challenges that have impacted the upfit channel, primarily triggered by the ongoing supply chain disruptions and changes in upfitter work processes prompted by the COVID pandemic. And kudos to the upfitting industry. It's done a remarkable job in coping with these challenges along with a host of other issues. But the reality is that most of these forces are beyond the control of upfitters, such as external pricing pressures, which has caused upfitting to become much more expensive. And another example of forces that are beyond the control of upfitters is the inconsistency of chassis deliveries from the OEMs, which has caused more than one fleet manager to say that the upfitting process nowadays has become a major headache for them. So let's examine these key challenges that are impacting the upfit industry in more detail. As we start the 2023 model year, there's a lot of uncertainty about the timeliness of deliveries of 2023 model chassis that are earmarked for upfitting. And rightly so, many fleet managers still have fresh memories of the inconsistent delivery of chassis to upfitters during the 2022 model year. In fact, delayed chassis deliveries was the primary reason attributed to the longer order to delivery times experienced by most fleets that had upfitted vehicles. And the question is, will the chassis shortage and inconsistent delivery schedules continue into the 2023 model year? And as we start the model year, there continues to be a strong demand for trucks in both retail and fleet markets, which is telegraphing or promising to continue to impact chassis availability. And over the past 2 years, upfitters have experienced inconsistency of chassis deliveries, and fleets have seen lead times increase as a result. When you can't depend on a vehicle showing up as expected, it makes upfitters hesitant to order parts in advance. Ideally, the ordered auxiliary equipment and upfit components should arrive at an upfitter when the chassis arrives. But in recent years, it's been difficult for upfitters to maintain a production schedule when vehicles are not arriving consistently. The delivery of chassis and the delivery of parts are often not in sync due to these supply chain issues. And in some cases, upfitters have had to actually downsize their workforce, which is already constrained due to the interruption of work because of these unexpected chassis delays. The next key challenge has been the ongoing supply chain issues that have impacted not only the upfit industry, but the entire global economy. These supply chain disruptions have had a dramatic impact on vehicle throughput at upfitters. And in today's market, upfitters are being buffeted by having to backorder parts. They have constraint on ordering prefabricated equipment, and there are inflationary price pressures for raw materials that are used to manufacture these various auxiliary equipment. During the past 2 years, upfitters have experienced a multitude of other miscellaneous supply chain disruptions involving a variety of material shortages ranging from rubber, wood, steel, seat foams, glass, etc. All of these have created bottlenecks in the upfit process, contributing to slippage in delivery times. But there are also other complications occurring during the upfit process. For instance, a growing number of fleet managers are complaining that getting custom service bodies built with all the applicable equipment has been a challenge due to these supply chain delays, which has caused these custom installations to take much longer to complete than in the past. The third challenge has been upward cost pressures across the board. This ranges from chassis, prefabricated equipment, component parts, and raw materials in general, such as aluminum and steel. How do you control these cost increases? And when the upfitter passes along cost increases, you understandably get grumbling fleet customers. And in fact, higher commodity prices have contributed to additional delays as fleet managers now need to get their management's approval for these after-the-fact cost increases. Next, ongoing labor shortages. In today's job market, there's what is known as the Great Resignation, and it's created challenges in hiring and retaining qualified employees in all industries, including upfitters. And although upfitters have sought to hire additional employees to meet the increased work demand, many have found it difficult to find qualified candidates to fill these additional positions. And as a consequence, many upfitters are working shorthanded because they're struggling to hire qualified employees. And it's not just a shortage of skilled employees, it's also employees in general. These labor shortages have contributed to longer timeframes to complete upfit work. And one consequence to the churn of employees at some upfitters is that fleet managers are complaining that there's been an increase in errors made during the upfitting process, which they attribute to either these new hires or what they call no hires. And this is when an upfitter is understaffed. Also, the COVID pandemic has caused upfitters to modify work processes to minimize exposure to COVID by adopting social distancing in their work environments. And while these modified work processes have improved employee safety, it oftentimes results in less efficient workflows. Lastly, transport constraints. This is an area that's contributing to delivery delays for upfitted chassis. Upfitters are at the mercy of transport companies, not only for the delivery of the chassis for upfit, in other words, bringing the chassis from the factory to their facility, but also to return the upfitted chassis to the ultimate end user. Although upfits may be completed in a timely manner, it's for naught because order to delivery delays will occur if there's a lack of carrier transports available or if there's a shortage of rail cars. And in my closing comments, I'd like to discuss what fleet managers can do to improve order to delivery times for upfitted vehicles. So first, advanced planning is crucial. There are many moving parts in upfitting a vehicle, which makes early planning essential for completing an upfit in a timely manner. Second, you should place new vehicle orders as early as possible to buffer against possible production and transportation delays, which, we've got a track record of that. Third, anticipate lead times. Lead times for add-on equipment and bodies can be very long, and they need to be coordinated with anticipated chassis deliveries to an upfitter. And in today's environment, that may be easier said than done, but it's something that should be strived for. Fourth, when possible, standardize upfits. Standardization increases operational efficiency and helps to expedite order to delivery times. Standardization also helps to improve the quality of build and ensures a more consistent build. So with this as my final observation, I'd like to conclude my State of the Fleet Industry presentation for the week of July 18, 2022, and I'd like to thank you for watching.